Hey, we are live, I think. We'll wait a second and make sure that that pops up on the YouTube channel. I am not seeing it yet, but as we wait for the recording to begin, welcome to the waiting room, y'all. Um, how are y'all doing this evening, Rob?
I'm doing fine. Actually, I am looking right now at the live stream on YouTube, so it is working.
Excellent. I
Hello,
am
everybody.
so glad. Well, welcome then to our first weekly RfRx episode on our playlist. This is, of course, your prescription for coping. And at Recovering from Religion, we offer hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non belief. And this is, as we said, our weekly live stream show where we host guests who discuss topics that are relevant to folks in the RFR community. And this is our first week on here. So if we have any technical hiccups, please bear with us. We'll get it sorted out. But we are so happy to be able to join y'all on YouTube. And to access our other resources, you can visit our website at recoveringfromreligion.org, where you can get in touch with a volunteer on our 24/7 helpline, attend a support group, peruse our online resources, visit the blog, learn about the next RfRx episode, listen to the podcast, get connected with a licensed mental health care professional, make a donation, or even apply to be a volunteer yourself. So, with all that said, let's jump in. Today's topic is more deconstruction stories featuring 3 recovering from religion volunteers who I am so excited to chat with about this. And real quickly, we always have a disclaimer at the beginning of our program. As a reminder, Recovering from Religion is a nonprofit organization, and our shows are designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason. All of our guest speakers are presenting their own views. People of any political or religious affiliation are welcome to participate in the show, and this is a safe space for members of the LGBTQ plus community. So we ask that everyone please keep the comments civil. If you disagree with somebody in the chat, please do so respectfully, and please respect the speaker, the hosts, the other guests, and yourself. And with that, Rob, would you care to do the honors of introducing our first guest this evening?
I can do that. I'm looking at the YouTube stream, and my picture is backwards from what it's in Riverside. I'm not going to be able to get used to this. It is
Oh
so
no,
weird.
it's the mirror
I'm
universe.
looking at the mirror universe of me, and I should have a little goatee and be evil. But all right. Sherry D'Souza was raised in Sydney, Australia, as a third-generation Jehovah's Witness, devoting much of her youth to full-time volunteering for that religion. After learning of the gross cover-up of child sexual abuse in the religion through the Australian Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, and so she left the religion in late 2016. She is passionate about supporting others, and in April of 2020 started the first RFR support group in Sydney. With a secular background in healthcare administration, Sherry now works from home and enjoys the flexibility this gives her to do more in establishing RFR in Australia. When she isn't banging away at her keyboard, you will find her playing with her Abyssinian cat, Billy, indulging in her Abyssinian. What is that? You'll tell us later. Indulging in her hobbies of cross stitching, attempting to play her clarinet, and painting.
Wow. Sherry is multi-talented, as we will learn. And it's not even our only guest this evening. We have 2 more. I am going to introduce to you some of our other amazing guests. Next up, we have Josiah Engel, who was born and raised also as a Jehovah's Witness and was a full-time pioneer and ministerial servant by the age of 18. He left the organization in 2014 when he was 27 and only fully deconstructed about 5 or 6 years ago. He's been volunteering for RFR since last year, November of 2024, and he has 3 kids and an amazing partner that supports him in all of the volunteer stuff that he does here, which is extensive, as you will learn about momentarily. He is largely responsible for anyone on the interwebs seeing our content. So, little preview there. And finally, Rob, do you want to introduce our third guest?
Yes, people who are fans of this show over the last 5 years have probably seen David about 25 million times, because he definitely holds a championship in doing RfRx talks himself. But we're welcoming him back today on this panel. David is a mental health therapist and coach, supervisor, and consultant. David grew up as a Christian fundamentalist attending Bible college, where he deconverted and earned a bachelor's in theology and psychology. Later, David completed master's degrees in both counseling psychology and forensic psychology. I keep wanting to find out what that is, and I always say I'm going to ask you, and we never got around to that. Please remind me today to ask you what the hell forensic psychology is. David's business can be found at lifeweavings.com, and his writing can be followed and subscribed to at humanitiesvalues.com.
All right, Rob, I've added that question to our
Thank you.
discussion
Thank you.
outline, so it's gonna come up. Welcome, all of you, to the program. Thank you for being our guinea pigs for our first live stream episode. You have a lot of courage to come out here with our tech skills and everything, but I have no doubt we will overcome. So, okay. One of our most popular topics to talk about on this show is deconversion and deconstruction stories. People love to hear about how other people kind of came to either question their faith, doubt their faith, leave their faith, and how they came out on the other side. It's one of those things that can be kind of inspirational for people and helps us not feel like we're the only one who has ever gone through something like that. So, thank you, all three of you, for coming to chat with us. And before we get into all of the cool things that y'all do at Recovering from Religion, I wonder if you might want to give us just a short kind of description of what you believed, why you stopped believing it, and why you needed to recover from that, or what you needed to recover from. And let's see, who wants to start, or should I start calling on people? I see
Whatever.
David's screen lighting up. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
I keep seeing the purple, and which, I mean, great color. I have no idea what it's picking up, other than my dog's incessant, silent, but deadly farts. So there is that. Seriously, they're terrible.
Well, I'm glad this
but
is
yeah,
not a
on that
full
note,
sensory experience then.
But thankfully, we're not doing this live
Be
in the
thankful.
studio together.
Seriously, I love that dog, but oh my gosh, he just, yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, no, I mean, group very much fundamentalist, almost went to the right even further than that as much as possible. Certainly at another time can have a lot of fun breaking down theological dogma if you really, really want to. Don't highly recommend it. It gets very boring. But beyond that, basically was going to go to the ministry and kind of started asking a few questions, and oops, too many questions, and basically deconverted in the middle of it. But of course, by then, what the hell am I going to do? So I guess I'm going to stick around, and switched over to psych. And so I've been kind of having fun ever since. Just having, appreciating the fact that with a Bible college education, you often will know as much, if not more, of the history and textual criticism of Christianity. So, yay!
What was the denomination?
So it was Grace Bible College. It's now called Grace Christian University. When I went, there was all of about 200 students. They now have about 1,000. And to be fair, it actually was, and still, it's an excellent school. They've got some pretty good academic standards. And I love many. I still am in touch with, or tangentially, with some of the professors there, and it's honestly, they do a good job. And they were part of the Grace Gospel Fellowship, or GGF, which is far bigger in the Pacific Northwest, from what I gather. At least it used to be all those years ago when I went there. But it's very small, and they fall into a very small subset of theological circles. And so as a consequence, they're not, for one thing, they don't agree that baptism immersion is a legitimate thing. So that cuts them completely off of almost all Baptists out there, which is one of the highest denominations. So it's like, you're done. And so and there's a lot of reasons for that, which I will not go into right now. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, but I've gotten involved with a lot of things there and met some, friends at the time, and we started studying philosophy and the scary thing called evolution. And before you know it, it was like, this doesn't make any sense to go anymore. I'm out. So it's fun.
Not fun, I suspect.
I mean, at the time, actually, it was terrifying. Freely admit it. It was definitely not. It was not great, and still for many years, suffered a lot of the just fear and anxiety, and death concerns and sleep issues, and the darkness coming, and you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I mean, I can joke about it now, but it's been 20 years almost, so actually more. God, now I'm old. But yeah. So I freely admit, it's been a while, so I can joke in ways that I was not able to initially. So this is not meant to dismiss anybody else's real issues. It happens, and we all have to work through it in our own way. But I will say, I guess in my way, it does get better. It does become easier. And one of the things I do as a therapist and coach is work with people coming out of those things, out of that ideology. And we learn to have some fun with some of the silliness, or at least now that we call it silly, and it's okay. There was never any God for you to get blasted by. So let's enjoy
You're
life.
safe. Yeah,
At
we had
least
a
from
lot
a
of fun.
imaginary deity, you're safe. The
Right.
zombies, totally different.
Can't make any guarantees about real things, but you are safe from the
No.
imaginary deity.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
had a lot of fun with that in October, celebrating, Halloween and spooky things. And
Mhm.
we had someone came in and did tarot card readings for us, and we talked about Ouija boards and spirit boards. What was that? Some kind of Jesus Ouija board that we found that you can order on Amazon, where it's
Yeah,
kind of
a
fun to
great,
not be.
great entrepreneurial idea because Christians are told it's demonic. No, let's make one which claims right on the cover of the board that this is to communicate directly with Jesus Christ, with
So
his
it must
picture
be
and
fine.
everything.
There's an AI program for that. It's called, if I recall, is it Christian AI dot something. I was actually just writing an article about it,
What?
where it really is. It's based on basic theological stuff, and like you can talk right there. They've got a couple iterations out there because you can train it on specific. There's one called Gita.ai, which is based on the Bhagavad Gita, so that you can talk with Krishna, or Krishna. Sorry.
Oh, you're telling me that this
Yeah.
is acting as if it's the God that you wanted to and responding.
It will respond as if it is a deity. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
is
I have to wonder
terrifying.
because there's so many mixed messages in the Christian Bible about, like, is it going to say, oh, my son was really bad today. Oh, take him to the village gate and have the villagers stone him to death. I mean, is that what's going to come out of the damn thing?
It's a fair question because
Or is it
let's be
turn the other
honest.
cheek and love thy neighbor? Like, which is going to come out of the damn thing? I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, these texts are not internally consistent. That
No.
is gonna be interesting to see what it picks if they've got it, calibrated towards
Wow.
are there certain guardrails that they've put around it where it's not allowed to recommend things to you
Right.
that would be illegal? I don't know.
You'd hope so.
I'm having trouble getting enough workers to complete my. Hey, you can take the slaves from the town next door. Then that's perfectly fine.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
I kind
too
of want to
funny.
play around with that and see what it says. We'll look forward to your article, David. Where will we find that article when it comes out?
At some point, it's going to be coming out on the American Atheist magazine. So
Excellent.
I'm not sure what time, but
Okay, well, you'll have to let us know when it does. So before we pivot into hearing more about the resources that you develop and manage for us, let's hop over and hear a little bit from our other panelists. Sherry, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from? Where are you joining us from?
Well, I am, if you can't tell from the accent, coming to you from Australia. I was born in Sydney, but I now live 2.5 hours down the south coast from Sydney, and it's beautiful, right on the water. I love it. So that's where I'm coming from. As Rob read out in my bio, I was raised third generation Jehovah's Witness. I was very dedicated to that. Was also a regular pioneer for 10 years. That's as far as you can go as a woman, by the way. The rest of anything you achieve is via the husband.
Wait, so what does a pioneer mean? I don't know the term.
Okay, good question. So Jehovah's Witnesses do not pay anyone, right? You are a volunteer, but you are expected to do every month door knocking of some form, preaching in some form or other. At that time, being a regular pioneer was devoting 90 hours a month of door knocking. So that's a large chunk of your time, and you support yourself financially by part-time work, and it's usually quite menial jobs that you can get. So because you don't have any training or education, that is frowned upon. So yes, I was a pioneer, and I hear, Josiah, you were too. So I'm very much looking forward to, I'm looking forward to hearing your story, because I haven't met you before. Anywho, fast forward, because that was a while ago now. As was mentioned in the bio, my faith was completely shaken and derailed when I realised how much they were hiding child sexual abuse. And we are talking on a scale that the Catholic Church would blush. Not good. When I read that report, about a month later, as I was trying to come to terms with all of it, I thought, well, if I was wrong about the Jehovah's Witnesses, what else am I wrong about? So I then had to analyze every aspect, and that then gets to, okay, well, what do I really think about the Bible, and what do I think about God, and why do I say I believe in God? And when I analyzed that, I began to realize that it was completely subjective, and it was based on how it made me feel. The only instances that I could refer to of, this proves to me that there is a God, were intensely personal experiences that I then learned you can put yourself in that state. So that all crumbled then too. So that was that. It's very traumatic, as David was sharing, and I quickly had to go and seek therapy, and it's a whole journey. It's really, the end of this month, it'll be 9 years since I read that report. So yeah, I think I'll always be working through the process and trying to understand myself more and more. Probably the only thing that I'd like to just throw in at this point is that for me, I felt that deconversion had two main aspects. The first was the theology and the doctrine, and breaking down, I suppose, the logical thinking side of it. The second piece, I think, is actually harder, and that's the identification piece, because as a woman, you are told who you are and how your identity is defined is in relationship to the men in your life. So you don't really have a sense of identity. So yeah, working that out, I think, is going to be a longer journey. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Sherry. And I know we have some more episodes of RfRx2 on our playlist where you've shared additional details as well, and same with David. So if people are hearing from y'all and want to learn more, don't forget to check our playlist for prior episodes. But this is, in fact, our first episode featuring Josiah. So I am super excited to hear your story and your experience. Please tell us at length, if you would like, since this is our first time hearing about your story. How did this all come to pass?
Yeah, so I was born and raised Jehovah's Witness. So right from the instant I was out, I was my first memories are going to the conventions, getting dressed up and being in big assembly halls, listening to people, and going door to door with my mom. She was a pioneer when I was real little. My dad never took to the religion, so she kind of stepped up and did most of that, like teaching us and all that stuff. So I really thought it was the truth. They have a good way of catching the emotions with, you're gonna live forever. This is just temporary, and it's not even a spiritual life. As a Jehovah's Witness, you get the earth. After Armageddon's over, you don't have to go be an angel. That's only 144,000 of them. We get to have the earth all to ourselves. All the animals go back to being vegans.
Is it true that when you're knocking on somebody's door and you're trying to convert them, right, it's actually sort of a conflict of interest, because maybe you want their house. Maybe they really got a nice house, right? And if you don't convert them, they get wiped out and you get to move in.
Which is very funny. Not too long ago, I was talking with my friends about how crappy some of the people in the religion are. And I remember we would be driving door to door and be like, man, once Armageddon comes and they're dead because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm totally going to that house. That house is mine. That car is mine. So yeah, I have very vivid memories of being a terrible person.
Wow. So that almost would motivate you not to convert some people. Like, if you want their stuff, you have to not knock on their door, right?
Honestly, yeah. No, that's very true. So yeah, I kept doing that. I went up the ranks, per se. Like Sherry said, as a woman, you can only go so far. Being a full-time pioneer, being married to an elder, stuff like that, and then if your husband decides to go into circuit overseer work, that's kind of how you go ahead. But as a man in the religion, you have all the glory and all that stuff. So I got baptized when I was 8. I was already giving talks in front of the congregation by the time I was 10. I became a ministerial servant when I was 17, and I started pioneering when I was 16. So they were really grooming me to be an elder. I was on the path of becoming a very young elder. I would go to other congregations and give talks on Sundays. I gave talks to thousands of people at our conventions. Sherry will know this. I did dramas where so at the conventions, we dress up and play out a Bible story. So I did plenty of those, helped out with that stuff. I was bought in 100%. And then, like Sherry, I saw a lot of hypocrisy. As you go into the leadership roles, they open the doors a little bit more, and you see how the elders are actually running things, how they talk in the elders' meetings behind closed doors. It's just very do as I say and not as I do, and very patriarchal. So I couldn't vibe with that anymore. And my wife at the time, because you get young or married super young as a Jehovah's Witness, like that's the thing, like you turn 18. So I got married when I was 22, which is older for us. So I was becoming an old man at that point. But we both decided. How old
was your wife when she got married, if I can ask?
22. She was a little bit older than me, but yeah, we were both 22. But yeah, we both decided at one point that we didn't want to be in this religion anymore. It was funny. She wanted to get a tattoo, and I studied the Bible and was like, this is only in the Old Testament where it talks about tattoos. We're not under the Old Testament anymore, according to the elders. So why is this a big deal? So I went to the elders and asked about it. And I got in trouble for doubting that we should have tattoos. And I also brought up evolution. Like, well, if evolution, couldn't God has used evolution as a tool when he was creating everything? And that was a big no-no as well. So I was getting in trouble, talking to the elders. They were telling me I was wrong about stuff. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So we left to move across the country to get away, because they were coming to my door almost every Saturday. And they would pull me aside and say, please do not leave. We do not have any young men, because most of the time in this religion, when people come of age, like 75% of them leave because it's stuff that they've just been indoctrinated with as kids. So they're like, they told me in the back room of the Kingdom Hall, I believe was my last meeting that I went to, we don't have any young men to take over. Please stay. And I was like, no, thank you. So me and my family moved to Las Vegas for 3 years, and just to get away from it all. And at that point, I still thought it was partly the truth. I thought maybe God was real. Something was out there. I didn't really give it much thought for a while. And then stumbled upon Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, and I read all the books that I wasn't allowed to read. And I read a history about humanity and how we moved from, the plains of Africa all over the world. And it just hit me all of a sudden that the Bible just it's full of crap. There's nothing in there that is correct. And ever since then, I've just been reading everything that I can. I've been going back through the Bible just to get it, to know it better, because I read it so many times with the Jehovah's Witness purview. But to go through and read it without somebody telling me what everything is saying that it says, it's completely different. So it opened my eyes to that. And really just the biggest thing that I lost when I left that church was your community, because as a Jehovah's Witness, Sherry knows this, I'm sure, your whole life is being a Jehovah's Witness. Your family's Jehovah's Witness. You usually work for Jehovah's Witnesses, which, fun fact, I still do. My job that I started when I was 16 was for a Jehovah's Witness, and I still work for them because you don't get a college education. So I'm still there with that. But it's just a crazy thing to leave. And I found all these people that I had been told were the worldly people, who are all terrible. Every single person who was not a Jehovah's Witness, their goal was to bring you out of the religion and trap you in Satan's world. And I joined a gym where people were just so much nicer and kinder than I ever thought people could be. And that really is what got my head turning with all this stuff. And I'd say one more thing. It's funny because as a Jehovah's Witness, you volunteer so much of your time. So I was so used to giving so much of my time. I kind of felt empty, like an empty spot. There's something I'm not doing that I'm so used to doing. And then when I started volunteering for RfR, I'm that was it. That's what I needed to do. I need to be giving back. So I've really enjoyed the past year and all the things that I've been able to experience.
Wow. I have a question for both of our ex-JWs. So I had somebody call up the helpline who called me the day she found out that the doctrine of the JW was, she had left the church. This is the thing that shocked me. A year before, but she was still sticking with you can't look at anything that's anti-JW. And then it took her about a year to do that. And the day she did it is when she called us. So how long did it take you guys, or you didn't pay attention to that from the get-go?
It took me a while. It was so weird to read any textbooks, read anything that wasn't Jehovah's Witness related. I went to a wedding 2 or 3 years ago. That was the first time I'd been in a church besides a Jehovah's Witness, a Kingdom Hall, and it was just I didn't know what I was doing. It felt super weird. So I don't know. Sherry might have a different example.
Oh, you're muted, Sherry.
Oh, Sherry, you're muted. It's not your fault. I muted you while you weren't talking, so you didn't know you were muted.
It's okay. Yeah, I totally agree. It does take a long time. For me, it took years of feeling disconnected, because when I stopped pioneering, the social cutoff already starts then, right? You're not included in things. And I really felt like I didn't know where I fit in anymore. If I wasn't a pioneer, I didn't know how to identify. My husband at the time was a ministerial servant, so I still had some kind of connective feeling to the rest of the congregation, but we didn't have children. We couldn't have children. That's a whole other story. I won't dive into that right now. So I felt at a loose end, and what I ended up doing was throwing myself into my career instead, which you're also not supposed to do. So I was now not considered to be a spiritual person, and my husband was told repeatedly that he needed to get his wife in line. Even though I was submissive as such, but through my work, my employers wanted to put me through a diploma so that I was qualified to do my job. And they were paying for it. Thanks, Auntie Bev. Sorry. Say hi to everyone.
Oh, is it Auntie Bev? Hey, Auntie Bev.
Yes. Come back, everyone, saying hello. Oh, she's brushing the hair now. Say hello. Oh. Hello. Hello.
Hey. Welcome back on the show. You've now featured on our 2 live streams for this program.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Oh, I'm smart now, aren't I? It's nice to meet you all and have a lovely Christmas.
Thank
And
you.
not Harold. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay. See you later. To those that know, Honeybev makes regular appearances in RfR material. So, Rob, to answer your question, here's the Abyssinian. That's Billy. He's beautiful. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Created the diploma. They found out that I did a diploma when I finished, and oh my goodness, Sasha was taken into the back room at the very next meeting, and like they didn't talk to me about it. Of course, you talk to the head of the household, but yes, he got into lots of trouble for allowing me to educate myself. Oof. So anyway, I suppose what I'm trying to get around to answering your question, Rob, is that I was slowly sort of drifting away, but yet when Sasha was exposed as an apostate very suddenly in June 2015, my last meeting was in June 2015. I never have walked into a kingdom hall since then. I was so disgusted with the witch hunt of trying to disfellowship him, and he just simply refused to go to any judicial meeting. The elders were trying to get him to go. They were trying to get information out of me. Anyway, I was so disgusted. I didn't go to any meetings. And as you might recall, I didn't read the Royal Commission report until November 2016. It took me 18 months of being disconnected from any meetings, and you're shunned immediately. So I had no contact at all. I didn't look at anything apostate. Sasha he took me to JW Fax, and I'm like, oh, I can't, no. So it took a long time for me to feel comfortable enough to analyze it and scrutinize it. Okay. How about for you, Josiah?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was probably at least 5 years before I thought about religion again. Honestly, I thought that I had made my decision. And thankfully, the one good thing about Jehovah's Witness doctrine is there is not teaching of hell.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that.
Yeah,
we didn't have that to be afraid of. So I just thought, well, the worst that's going to happen to me is I'm just going to die and be gone. I'm just going to live my life. I want to live it now. And that's really what I did. I don't even know if I got disfellowshipped. My mom didn't talk to me like immediately, and didn't talk for about a decade. I didn't hear from her. She would send me emails, but it would just be links to jw.org and like different stuff they had on there. So she didn't like meet my youngest daughter for a long time. She never talked to my 2 older kids for a long time. And recently they changed their doctrine on that. I don't know if you knew that, Sherry. They updated to like, if you get disfellowshipped, it's only 4 months now. It's not a year. Like used to, it had to be like a minimum of a year. And they give the family.
What's this period of time? That's 4 months versus a year.
Disfellowship, it's shunning. They call it disfellowshipping.
So they will only shun you for 4 months?
Yeah, now it's you can come back after 4 months.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. But before, when
really
I was
hurting for membership.
Oh, 100%. I haven't seen, like, they count a lot of people who aren't even active members. If they're publishers, is what they call them. If they ever got baptized, they still count them as members no matter what. So, yeah, but now that's like they give the families, it's their own decision if they want to be able to communicate with people after they've been disfellowshipped. So my mom actually, she came out and
that's a lot of backpedaling for them, and I think you're right. It's probably because they've lost a lot of people and they can't get new people. Yeah.
Yep, and they're allowed to have beards now, and the women can wear pants. It's
crazy.
Very liberal.
How about tattoos? How about the tattoo thing, though?
Yeah, no, I have tattoos, but that was after I left.
Ooh. Oh, so I see both of you have tattoos now. Was that a part of your deconstruction process? Okay, I'm seeing
It
Sherry
was
nodding
definitely a
yes.
big middle finger to my indoctrination.
Excellent. And what's the thought process behind that? Is it basically like I know there's the passage that sometimes the Southern Baptists will appeal to about don't mutilate your body or something, and then they tell you you can't get your ears pierced for that reason. Is it
Yeah.
that?
I think in the New World Translation, which is their translation of the Bible, it actually says that you cannot have tattoos.
They got specific.
So I
So
don't.
I know a
Oh,
lot of fundamentalist Christians go. So David, in your background, was that a no too?
As far as tattoos,
Yeah.
it depended on the denomination. I mean, I grew up Baptist, went into Southern Baptist. Definitely, some of the churches were very like, no. In fact, they had stipulate. Some of them had stipulations around like, death. You were not to, get cremated, because that was symbolic of burning in hell. And if you're saved, why would you do that? And so, eh, but similarly, like I got a ear pierced shortly after when I left, and it was a similar kind of. I still don't have any tattoos. Yeah, no, but has nothing to do with religion. I'm just averse to that kind of pain. But yeah, but it was definitely. It's always fun. You want to do something to your body. Like, no, this is mine now, not you. F all the way off. Like, I get to do
yeah.
something now with this so-called sacred temple that you frankly, wanted to abuse anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. So that I think is a great segue kind of into the next topic. A lot of people find religion to be fulfilling and meaningful for their own lives. But we've heard from each of you about some of the things that went wrong for you and led you to have questions and leave the fold, as it were. And I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about, what is it that people might need to recover from? And what are a couple of things that helped you along the way? I'm hearing tattoos and piercings were kind of sort of that fu on the way out. But what else might you have needed to recover from, and how did you go about doing that? Whether it was symbolically, like getting a tattoo or a piercing, or something else that you did to kind of get past that.
Um, well, I'll just jump in and go first real
Yeah,
quick.
please.
I know the biggest thing with Jehovah's Witnesses is you are not supposed to associate with people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. So your friend group, like everybody you talk to, are Jehovah's Witnesses. If you have to talk to anyone who isn't, you limit that time to as little as possible. So I know the biggest thing, leaving a high control group like that, where you lose your entire friend group, your family group, your community, replacing that was the biggest thing for me. And it sounds stupid, but I joined, like I said, a gym. I joined a CrossFit gym, which is another type of cult. But like that replaced for me in that time the people that I had to lose when I left religion, and that's the biggest. It sounds silly, but that was the biggest thing that helped me through.
No, I'm with you on that, and I am also on team CrossFit here. Like I agree that there's a little bit of woo that can get mixed up in there, and I don't follow the paleo diet anymore, but I that that was a big thing for me too. Like being able to decide I'm going to do strenuous exercise and I'm going to set goals for myself and I'm gonna build
Yeah.
muscles, gasp, and wear tiny shorts while
Right.
doing it. The scandal.
How could you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the competition too. Like we weren't allowed to do any of that as Jehovah's Witnesses. I wasn't allowed to play sports. I wasn't allowed to do anything like that. So this was my placebo for when I left, and it worked.
Yeah. I
So,
love
so
that.
no
I think
competition about anything, or is it just athletics?
Ooh.
um, so it's all about the association. And Sherry, you may have something else on that, but for me, it was we weren't allowed to hang out with anybody after school. Like your time with the worldly people are only what the government requires you to. So if you have to go to a practice or anything like that, then it's out of the question.
So I know some
I find
people associated with RfR who were fundamentalist Christians, and they, I don't know what they called it, but they went into competitions with other fundamentalist Christians about memorizing Bible passages. So you didn't even do that as a competition?
I don't know if
No?
I'd call it competing. I do think there was ambition, and there's a social exclusion that happens. So if you're reaching out, and that's taken from a scripture, that's seen as a desirous thing, but you can never be doing enough. There's always more that you can do. So if there's any competition, I'd say you're competing with yourself to do more and more and more. And you look at others that are doing a lot, and you're like, oh, I should be doing more. Like there is another phrase, and I don't know, Josiah, if you've thought of this or what your thoughts are on it, but one of the most toxic teachings I think they have no concept of the word grace. That religious idea, that ideology of grace, that it's by the grace of God or the grace of Christ, like, nope, that word does not appear in any scripture. Gracious does, but that's only in relation to Jehovah. How they interpret grace is with two very horrid words together. They call it undeserved kindness. So it's only by the undeserved kindness of God that you have any chance of salvation, which means it does not matter what you do, you are never worthy, never worthy. And that is such a destructive thing to be teaching and inculcating in children. So I think that's the best way I can describe the closest thing to competition. Rob, Josiah, what are your thoughts on that? Did that provoke anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, the undeserved kindness thing, it's just where it's the type of love that is only you earn it. It's like you feel like you have to do more. So like you said, like I was taking they call them responsibilities or privileges is what they call them for the men of the congregation. So I was the literature room director. I made sure everybody had all their stuff for their bags so they could go out to hand out everybody or give everybody what they needed. I ran the sound department, so I was there an hour early every time. So it's like Sherry said, you feel like you have to. The only way you get worth is by doing things, even though they say, well, actually, this thing is like faith without works is dead. So they really want that works part to be there.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and that's another one of those kind of confusing passages, right? Because I remember in my church background, we always learned the whole, it's by faith you've been saved, and that through faith and not of yourself. It's the gift of God and all that. Wow, more of that verse started coming back to me as I was saying it. That was a little unsettling. But anyway, we had the whole, oh, it's not by works, it's by faith. But you can read all of those passages and come away with the exact opposite assessment, right? Where you can walk away thinking, okay, all I have to do is have faith and I'm saved and that's it. Or you can walk away saying, having faith is not nearly enough. If I'm not doing all of these things, then, I'm not a real Christian or a real believer or whatever. That Was that ever something that bothered you? I know David talked about, once he started studying in seminary, realizing these sort of contradictions and things. Did that ever come up in any of y'all's journeys where you started realizing, wait, I could read this and it could mean anything?
Well, 100%. In fact, usually when I talk about the story, and there's been a couple of instances in RfRx before, but we'll say that going to a Bible college, studying historical theology, studying systematic theology is probably one of the best things to do if your outcome is recognizing this is just all made up. I mean, once you start in this hit, even at the time, we're recognizing that there are literally different systematic theologies. So by systematic theology is meant the structure of interpretation and the determination of even what is scripture. And once you start, and there are at least two, if not more, full-on systems here where you're like, well, depending on what assumption you're bringing, you will interpret these verses in different ways. And it's completely legitimate once you've assumed that starting point. And once we really started, I mean, it was really interesting hearing, and I barely recall because again, when it was a while back, but students asking, because many of these kids had never encountered this. Like they went to a Bible college because, well, their parents wanted them to. They were basically there to get their AA, or as it was affectionately referred to, their MRS degree, because in a school like 200, we would have at least a dozen or so marriages and engagements a year. Like it was crazy how often this would happen. And of course, part of it being, you can only have sex supposedly when you're, under holy matrimony. So people really wanted it. And so, but really looking at some of these things, it's absolutely fascinating once you start really cracking the books and going, where did this stuff come from? And this whole notion that I'm just a Bible believer is so either one, delusional in the sense, or rather ignorantly delusional. Like you really have no idea the history behind what it is you're saying, or you're just flat out lying. I mean, it's really like, and usually it is the ignorance. Like most people, they're like, I just read the Bible the way it is, and you're like, you don't. Nobody does. That's not. In fact, even depending on your translation that you're covering, you could read different things. So, in fact, when you mentioned the New World Translation, I I totally started just chuckling because that translation was in, because I was part of like King James only circles, and the New World translation especially was, I mean, there were pamphlets that it was the devil's text, that it was, I mean, just it was evil incarnate to see that. And so thank you for bringing back those very fun memories.
Just to comment on that, I didn't dig into the Bible that way as I was waking up and coming out of it. What I did do was two things. The first was I watched a whole lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness content on what the organization was producing. I couldn't watch it without that filter. And hearing them debunk it, hearing them bring out the contradictions and the harm, and that just for probably the first 5 years, that was really important for me to just reassure myself that what it cost, the complete social isolation, losing family, losing social network, was worth it because it was not true. So that really helped. The second is my rebellious nature of, oh, wow, I get to do a whole lot of firsts now. So 2017 was like first birthdays, first Christmas, first Easter, first Anzac Day, first Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, even though I no longer had contact with them. Whatever I could do, we went to concerts, we did so many things, and I still surprise myself that there's still firsts I haven't yet done. I tried to, I recently had to have surgery earlier this year, and I said to the surgeon, now, it was a tonsillectomy, and apparently tonsillectomies, there is a post-operative hemorrhage risk. So I'm like, well, I won't be mad. In fact, I'd love it if you could somehow give me a blood transfusion, just for the sake of being able to say I've had one. It's just that, being very rebellious and that definitely was the tattoo thing for me. So the tattoo, though, it's a hummingbird, so it represents freedom, but I've got two words, apostate and proud. So taking back the way that they term that, I'm thinking my next one might be Jezebel, maybe. Anyway.
Ooh, I like it. Excellent. We'll have to have another follow-up episode and see what additional acts of rebellion and recovery have occurred. I can't wait. Okay,
Just because I
well,
can.
yes, you can, and there is no deity that's gonna get mad at you about it that we know of. So, okay, I feel like I can't believe it's already been almost an hour of chatting, and there's so much more to talk about, but all 3 of you do a ton of work for this organization to help other people recover from religion, and I don't want us to leave without talking about that. So, you cover kind of the gamut of types of things that we do here. Let's hear first from Josiah. Actually, can you tell us about what you do at this organization? You're kind of our link to the outside world, right, with the social media team, and why is that
Yeah.
rewarding for you?
Yeah, so I recently became co-director of the social media team. We got a great group over there, Cass and Emily. A big group of people who do a lot of different things. We have short content creators, we have graphic designers, people who go in and moderate comments. So definitely loving doing that because that gives us, like you said, an inkling into what people who are looking at what we're doing, what they're thinking. We get a lot of great comments, a lot of repeat commenters, and we really get to get in there and see people's very short stories because they'll come out and say, "Man, that was me too. I was in that same boat." So we can tell them thank you for sharing and things like that. I'm also on the helpline, so I take calls and chats where I get to talk to people from all over the world. I've had calls in from Australia, I've had calls in from Nigeria. Just really get to see what people are going through, and it really tugs at your heart when you hear so many different stories, but they all are also very similar. People are struggling with the same things. Of like all of us did, come to the conclusion that this doesn't make sense anymore. And then, sorry, my cat's getting in the camera. Um, it doesn't make sense to them anymore either. And then they all have the same fears. There's hell, there's the fear of losing your family, all of that. So I get to help those people find a little bit of the freedom that I found. Hopefully, we have people who come back and do that stuff as well. So I also recently became an ambassador, which I super enjoyed. I did my first event at a Pride event, and the pack that I got was about 20 brochures, about 50 cards, some stickers. So I set up and I brought books to read and I brought a tablet because I figured I wouldn't be talking to a whole lot of people. Within 20 minutes, all of my stuff was gone. People came from every corner of the Pride event and they would call out like, "Oh, we're recovering from religion. We all need that, don't we?" And then they'd come over and we'd have good discussions. And they were like, "Can I take this? I know somebody that will totally, be helped out by this." So got a lot of that. Sounds like there's some people who are going to try to do a local support group here after they talked with me. So they're going through training with RfR now. So yeah, it's been great. And my girlfriend, she volunteers for an abortion clinic in Virginia, so we get to work together. Her booth was actually like 2 booths down from mine, so we were able to volunteer at the same time and talk to the same people. But it's been an awesome journey, and I can't wait to see where else it takes me.
Well, we are so glad to have you and grateful that you help us get out there and, like you said, help people find our services who need them and can benefit from them. So thank you so much. And I'm told we can barely see your kitty. Can we get a better view? Oh, what a good cat. She is beautiful. Or he.
She's been sleeping here the whole time, and she just decided to wake up.
I love that so much. We are very pet friendly here, so thank you for allowing her to join us. Okay, well, let's go over to David. Tell us about what you do at RFR and what you find valuable or meaningful about volunteering and helping other people recover from religion.
What don't I do? It's funny. I forget when the first time it was that was asked to come on to RfRx. It was definitely a few years ago. But since then, yeah, I mean, the constant joke is basically if anybody is missing, just call me up and I'll put something together and make a presentation out of anything. And so so there's that. Recently, a few, several months ago, offered and was received well on taking over the resource director position here. So we are very much at work on
And for people who
developing.
don't know, David, what does that mean? What are our resources?
I was actually about to, and that is all of the resources that are on the Recovery from Religion website. Those are all at least nominally curated. We want to make sure that links are working and that the information that is there is at least coming from. We have standards of what sources are coming from and what information is there. Obviously, there are a ridiculous number, so times we have to kind of play catch up to get some of those taken care of, but we're always working at it and we're always wanting to update those links because frankly sometimes it's just easier to be able to come to a hub for information that is geared towards the topics that matter to you, and that's what that is for. Yes, you can Google it, by all means, go right on ahead. But at the same time, sometimes it's good. We've done a little bit of the work for you, so you can come in and appreciate that. And that's in the process of being revamped, and it's going to look amazing when it's all done, I'm sure. So there is that. Also do some ambassador stuff, help out at the excursion. Had a lovely time this last year. So hopefully we'll see more people there next year, of course. And as well, then I'm also involved with the Secular Therapy Project. I help with vetting the therapists that are on that list. And what the Secular Therapy Project is basically it's a clearinghouse for people who have said, hey, I am interested in as a licensed therapist in an estate or more than one, depending on how many licenses you have. But the dedication there is I have said yes to saying yes to being a secular therapist, i.e., I am not going to bring up my religious faith. In fact, probably don't even have one. I am not going to bring up, interventions of bringing in the Bible or some other holy scripture to, deal with supposedly any of your mental health concerns. And so this is a way of kind of offering that first step because contrary to what I believe I make a case for, the ethics, unfortunately a great many therapists do use that authority to pursue and push their ideological background concerning religion. It happens entirely too often. And so this is one way of being able to have that, again, that initial clearinghouse. And can't guarantee that you're going to like everything the therapist tells you. That's true of just therapy. But we can say that everybody that we have vetted is dedicated to the best of evidence-based practices and that they are secular. And then of course I myself have one. So it's I do about 30 plus hours of therapy a week, therapy/coaching, depending on where you're coming from. And on top of that, create classes and just reading as much as possible because I can't be the resource director unless I read an obscene amount of books. It's part of the small print that I
It
signed.
is. I saw the contract. It's
It is.
absolutely
It's in
part
the
of the small print.
it's really bad. Like they have standards, and
Yeah.
otherwise I just get books thrown at me. It's
So
weird.
all of those books right behind your head there, that was just today's. And I know Kara is an avid reader. They also, all those books behind Kara are just today's entries.
Sure,
Just
sure.
today's. Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah.
bit of a slower reader than David, I'm afraid, but just as excited
Mm,
about the books. And looking
uh,
forward to adding more. We usually add more books to my Goodreads list every week on this program, so I'm counting on David to come up with a good recommendation in the next 5 or 10 minutes. We'll see what
I can
happens.
do this. Yeah.
I believe in you. And while you're thinking about that, let's hear from Sherry, who does so much here at RFR. And I want to hear about the Australia update. What's going on down under?
Oh my God, we have got so much going on. I'm really going to be challenged to condense this, so I will do my best to romp through it. Okay, so first support group, as you know, 2020. Then in January 21, I had a few other either ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or other exes that wanted to help with RfR, and so they went through training and we formed a leadership group. I was then invited onto the RfR board, and the goal here in Australia was to bring RfR to Australia and do all of the wonderful things that RfR does, but just, over here. So that has been quite a process. But I am so excited to share with everybody. Has it only been a week? No, nearly 2 weeks. Time has no meaning. We're now an incorporated charity, and we have our not-for-profit status, and we have our tax exemption status. But the big news, we finally have DGR status from the Australian Taxation Office, which means we can now give tax-deductible receipts. It's only taken nearly 2 years to get to this point, and a whole lot of help from a wonderful not-for-profit called Not-for-Profit Specialists, who specialise in setting up charities, and they helped us navigate all of the bureaucratic tape, and it has been a hell of a process. But we're finally here, and so now things are getting real because we can now fundraise, we can now lobby. We've worked hard on developing relationships with other secular organisations here, and we have their support, which is fantastic. We're going to do a press media release to announce that we now have this status. We're just getting ready for the onslaught. In fact, we now have our own board here in Australia as well, and one of the board members, Sean, who looks after all of the, as the applicants come through, the Australian ones get sent to him, and he does the interviewing and helps with the training. And after I was interviewed last week for our fundraiser with Scathing Atheist, Sean sent me a message saying, could you stop talking about RfR, because we've had 10 applications for volunteers. And I'm like, yes, fantastic. We are now really getting the show on the road, and I'm just so excited about the potential of what we have ahead of us. Next year in Australia, we have our census. We have them every 5 years. The last census in 21 showed a big uptick in those saying that they have no religion, was 39%. Huge. We think it's going to be even bigger next year. So we're working with these other secular organisations, and because there's not many organisations that do what we do. In fact, I struggle to find one that helps people at the coalface as they're coming out and provides that peer support and has all of these wonderful programs. So, and they recognise that. So organisations like Humanist Australia and the Rationalist Society of Australia and the National Secular Lobby, there's a heap that are really keen to promote us. And I'll just share this. So the not-for-profit specialists, when I first spoke to them to get help to become a charity, I was not expecting to get an ally. The owner of that organisation, when she heard what we were doing and what RfR was, she said to me straight away, I'm going to give you a discount because Australia needs this charity. She shared that she'd been harmed by religion as well. And the support that she gave us, she did a whole heap of pro bono work to make it happen. And at the end of it, we met with her just last week, and she said to me that the day she first spoke to me in January 24, she spoke to 9 other charities, but our call was the only one that she remembered. She got up at 4 a.m. in Austria to take the call, and she's just been outstanding. So, yes, I'm just a little bit excited.
Well, I am a lot excited as well, and we can't thank you enough for leading that effort, and very excited to see how that grows and expands and
Oh,
how many people that can
Cara,
benefit.
I'm just gonna throw in two plugs real quick. Um, some of the things that we're doing in Australia, we've got our own website. Encourage you to check it out. We have on the YouTube channel for Recovering from Religion, there are two programs that our Australian team are working on. One is called RfR Stories, and that is because we noticed in support groups that there's a real need that people have to tell their stories and to do a deep dive on it. And support groups aren't really the platform for that. So RfR Stories was born, and that does do the deep dive. It's really cathartic. So that we've got quite a few episodes on the YouTube channel for that. And just yesterday, our newest program called Unshackled is also up. And that's a wonderful conversation between Chris and Joanna. Chris is our president and chair for RfR Australia, and we are hoping that we can finagle Joe in as well. But anyway, fantastic episode. Strongly recommend that everybody checks that out. Okay, now I'm done.
Yes, no, thank you for mentioning those plugs. I wanted to mention that too. We have lots of other playlists on our YouTube channel besides the one that you may be currently watching right now, RFR Stories Australia. And also, Rob just resurrected one of our older playlists as well. We have RFR Deconstruction Stories that you can
And
check out if you
and
want to hear more from me.
who was the featured person in the very first interview I did?
It was me again. So there's currently lots of Kara content. You can wait till the next one if you've had too much, but
Oh,
it's
no,
gonna
no,
be a good
no. I've
playlist.
heard so much from you just over the years, but I think I pulled out some really interesting information that people might not know. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it is, to Sherry's point, it's really nice sometimes to be able to just sit down and tell the story of what happened. And it's sometimes just kind of like getting that off of your chest. Like, this was a wild ride. This was weird. Was not something I intended to sign up for. And I definitely didn't know what the offboarding process was going to be like. There was not a committee that was running that process, and it was a journey. And it's really nice to get to sit down and chat with other people who have been through, whether it's a similar experience or a completely different one. It's really nice to not feel like you're the only person that's had to go through that.
I
You
find it a
definitely are.
little odd that I'm actually doing a series of deconstruction stories because I never heard that word until I joined RFR. Like
Oh,
to
that's
me,
right.
right? To me, it was deconversion. It's the first time somebody uses that to me, and everyone in the helpline who calls seems to know it because it's probably all over YouTube elsewhere. And when they start poking around, they hear it. But I didn't know what that word meant. So anyway, do you want to describe what the difference is between deconversion and deconstruction?
Ooh, that is a great question. And I think you're right. I feel like I've been hearing more about deconstruction in recent years. It used to just be that, you deconverted, and that meant you were no longer a member of or a follower
Right, right.
of
That's the
whatever
name of Seth
faith.
Andrews' autobiography on the subject, right? Deconverted.
Right.
Which, by the
But
way,
then
autocorrect does not like that word. I can never get it. Always changes to something else. It doesn't know what deconverted means. It's weird.
it always changes it for me too. But maybe subliminal messaging. I don't know. But I guess deconstruction is a little bit more of a process, right? Of kind of unpacking all of that stuff out of your brain, and out of your behaviors and out of your habits and out of just your assumptions and the way you're thinking about things, right? And yourself. I don't know. Would our panelists like to comment on that at all? What deconstruction looks like to you as opposed to just deconversion or no longer being a part of that faith?
There is definitely, you spoke to it there, where, and I think all three of us actually, and four of us as well. I mean, it's just like once you left something, you have holdovers, you have, you know, intellectual and emotional habits that you've gotten into that have been learned, taught, and have been associated with certain things that sometimes take a lifetime to unlearn. It's one of the great while also annoying things about the brain is that it doesn't really get rid of stuff. Once it's been, learned, as far as, if it was ever learned in a way that at the time was helpful, it's not going to leave. And in fact, that's one of the things that I work with people on, is going, this isn't about shaming yourself about the things that you thought. This is about recognizing that who we are as human beings, these silly hairless apes that we are is a matter of trying to like figure shit out. We want to know, like, if I do this thing, then the next thing I can predict pretty well what's going to happen. I'm trying to figure out the world that I find myself in. And religion, particularly if you grow up with it, is an answer. It is. Like, I mean, honestly, I honestly think it's a false one, but how many things do we think at any time in our life that we later realize, well, okay, I was full of it, and didn't quite have the information that I thought or was hoped for was accurate. And so deconstruction is very much that active, process of going, so I think this, I used to think it, but it's still showing up in my reactions. It's still showing up in some of the thought patterns that I have. It's still showing up in the judgments that I'm making about myself and about others. And how do I then go about, and this is where it's not just a matter of leaving it behind, it's about replacing it. That's why I'm an advocate for humanistic principles, not just as a means of going, leaving religion. For some people, you don't even really need to at times, not entirely. For others, definitely do. But you want to have something to replace it, because otherwise life gets really kind of, scary and uncertain. And so having something to come in and go, wait a minute, what can I do instead of going to God or going to my religious community, or, thinking about morality in a certain way? Here are some different ways of determining that. And it may not be necessarily as absolutist. There's a certain degree of uncertainty you have to kind of get used to, or should get used to. But it really is something, though, that there is a level of freedom to be had in that discovery, which, I had so much fun listening to Josiah and Sherry talk about this. Like, and I'm looking at this, and how is it, Sherry? I love every time you mention, like, I'm going on my journey of firsts. I just want to, it's just
Yes.
fun.
Yeah. And I'd like to speak further to because you've reminded me of a few things and just how you explain that. For me, I had to learn how to think and how to assess information and how to work out what I now believed or felt about whatever topic it was. And yes, that's liberating. It's also very frightening. And so the thing I had to become comfortable with was that discomfort of not knowing, and that it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know can be an answer. Josiah, I'm sure you'll agree with this, that within the J-dubs, they would often say, no matter what question you have to ask, you will find the answer in the Bible. The Bible is the answer to absolutely everything. And if you don't get an exact answer, there'll be a principle or a parable or something that you can draw on that will help you answer that question. And so when you leave and you no longer have that certainty, just that was a huge piece for me of just being able to say, well, I don't know what I think on that. And you know what? That's okay. I don't have to have an answer right now. And maybe I'll find an answer down the track, and that's all right. But be comfortable with not knowing.
Yeah.
A lot of that I feel the exact same way. I would say with deconversion, you can say you're no longer part of a group and be deconverted from it, but deconstruction is something where it can take years and years and years, and probably will never fully be deconverted, because for most of us, religion was, when we were in our formative years as children, was what, and I think of it as our scaffolding of who we became, was built around, especially in high control religions, built around that religion. So to deconstruct that and to take away bits and pieces to see okay, I can still be a good person without this belief. I can, still want to help humanity and go out there and not have to feel like, because I no longer believe in Jehovah, that now I'm just doomed and there's no reason to do any good. There's no purpose in life. There's still a purpose out there. You can make your own purpose, and that's probably the best thing that you find out after you leave religion, is you have the ability to make your own purpose. You don't have to have somebody else tell you what your purpose is.
Yes,
You get
and
a
the
G
purpose
for that
doesn't.
illustration, Josiah.
Yeah.
I just gave him a very J-Dub reference there. Sorry about that. But whenever
I
you guys
love it.
talk,
What'd you say?
I said you get a G for that illustration.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry if I
Did I
triggered you.
use my dude? It all comes back, like repetition for emphasis.
I know. Gestures. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my
gestures. That's how I find myself doing it all the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Sorry
Yeah,
to any ex-J-Dubs watching. I think we've all triggered you. Sorry. Apologies.
Triggering.
well, as you said, it's a long process. It can take years, and then you might still find yourself doing the gestures and the catchphrases. But, well, we are about at time. We do have a couple of more questions that people have asked that I'd love to get into, including, I haven't forgotten, Rob, we still have to ask David about forensic psychology. Um, but before we do that, is there anything else on this topic, deconversion, deconstruction, kind of broadly speaking, that any of y'all want to mention before we go to the other questions? All right. Hearing no objections, let's do questions. So,
Yes.
also,
Number one, David, what is forensic psychology? Finally, I'm going to get an answer to this.
I swear I've answered this before. So, forensic psychology, all it means is it's the intersection of psychology and the law. That's it. And so it's the application of psychological principles in conjunction with, legal analyses and mostly it's assessments. Like anytime you're doing a competency assessment, anytime you're doing a so-called so-called insanity defense, which is not nearly as prevalent as TV shows tend to make it, but it is not used very often. But anytime you're going through these child custody assessments, evaluations for anything associated with family and childcare and so on. Like all of those are done predominantly by somebody with a forensic background. So there's the Hollywood-esque version of people who are interested in the psychopathy and the criminal element, and there's a fair number of people doing some amazing work in that, but most are really just doing a ridiculous amount of paperwork. So
Okay, thank you. I think I get that.
yeah, it's not nearly as spicy as say Criminal Minds or whatnot would have you believe.
Or The Mentalist.
oh,
like The
yeah,
Mentalist.
there you
Get
go.
me started.
I thought that might be
I love
fun.
that show, but no.
Love it. Okay, well, we do have another question, and this one is mainly for Sherry. Someone was wondering if you could speak more on the topic of women and identity and relationships to men, and kind of how that looked before, during, and after your deconversion and deconstruction. So go ahead and answer all that in 3 minutes. No, just kidding.
Yeah, thanks. It's such a huge topic, and I don't have concrete answers. I'm still on this journey trying to work it out myself. Yeah, it was actually an RfRx that really hammered it home and made me think about it in a completely different way. It was before you were hosting, Cara. It was actually 2020. It was one of the early episodes. It was Rebecca Williams, who is an ex-Mormon, and she spoke at length. It's a really great one. Whoever asked that question, go back into the archives of the YouTube channel and find Rebecca Williams. She is now a therapist for mixed faith relationships, and yeah, I was actually hosting that one. I remember now, co-hosting. Anyway, I digress. She made this comment. What made her leave Mormonism was how women were being treated, and that she didn't have an identity. But then she said that she recognized she had participated in her own oppression. And I just stopped. I was like, holy crap. That's exactly what I was doing too. I bought into the whole headship arrangement. I bought into the whole thing that my husband was my head and that he made all of the decisions and that I just had to support him. I then learned about complementarianism, which I didn't realize the Jehovah's Witnesses were actually teaching. The whole thing being that Eve was made as a complement to Adam, which basically means without Adam, she has zero identity at all. And I recognized that the J-Dubs did the same thing. And so trying to work out my identity apart from being a daughter, being a wife, and the other thing too is that Jehovah's Witnesses, if you are not married, if you are single, you are pitiable because you have no spiritual head. They feel sorry for you. It's so dehumanizing. It's just... So I'm still on that journey. There's some thoughts of my reflecting on my experience as a Jehovah's Witness woman. I have a lot more to say on the subject. I'm still formulating what my thoughts are, actually. And I have bought a whole lot of feminism books and loved listening to Glenda, who I know is in the chat. Glenda has some amazing things to say about feminism. In fact, that's another RfRx that you should check out because I learned a lot about the different types of feminism and what sort of resonated with me. So, yeah, 3 minutes, or did I go over? Do I get a G for timing, Josiah?
That was pretty good.
This is definitely not limited to Jehovah's Witness or even Christianity. I just sold my house, and on the contract, unbelievably, it says that the buyer is a married man, ... No woman is listed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Married man and his property will be moving into the property.
I was like shocked. It was 2025.
Yep.
Married man so-and-so by name. That's it. Yep.
I know. That's absolutely horrific.
Yep.
It is. And we've
got a long way to go yet.
We do. We have a long way to go, and talking about it is how we get there. Well, that and other things, but it's important to call attention to it. So thank you for doing that. Okay, and we are at that point about at time, but one of the other questions that was asked is where people can find y'all and your work. I've let everyone know that they should check us out at recoveringfromreligion.org, but where else can folks find y'all? And if that is the best place, then we will leave it at that. But do you have any links that you would like to share with us? I know David does, because David is the resources person. So of course he has resources to share with us.
I do believe that you actually had shared them earlier.
Yeah, okay, we put them in already. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And we do. We have David at humanitiesvalues.com and lifeweavings.com. So check his writings out there. And of course, we did already drop in the link to the resources page at Recovering from Religion. Sherry and Josiah, can y'all think of any other links that people should be sure and check out?
If you need to talk to somebody, just come into the helpline. That's the only thing I would say. Despite being the co-director of social media, I do nothing on my own social media, so you will not really find me anywhere else.
That's fair. I am the same way. I refer people straight to our main social medias, which I will now drop in the chat. All right.
And I don't really have a channel or a platform or anything other than working with RfR. So I have a Recovering from Religion email address. So if anybody wants to reach out, it's simply sherry@recoveringfromreligion.org. I do have a Facebook, but I don't do a lot. I'm more interested in just doing what I can with RfR, and there's a lot to do here in Australia, as we've mentioned. So, yeah.
There is. And
One
you
more thing I will
mentioned,
say, if
yeah, go ahead.
sorry,
Nope,
I
you're
was just going
fine.
to say, if any of this has inspired you to volunteer, please come and volunteer. We're always looking for more in the social media
Yes.
team, everywhere else. So that's another. I work in the training department as well, so we bring on new trainees. So come on in. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Great
Yeah.
point. I
And
dropped that link too. And Sherry, there's an RfR Australia website as well, right?
yes, there is. Sure is. Now, don't be afraid when you see it. Why did I say that? Because in order to get our DGR status, the Australian Taxation Office was freaking out that we had such a strong collaboration with the US. So we had to strip a whole lot out of it just to get over the line. We will be returning those elements because we're not trying to create new programs over here. We're just, the interview process is the same. It just gets fed to us. We plug the hotline, we plug the support groups, like we're using exactly the same programs. But yes, if you do look at the website, it might look a little unusual, but we are so proud of it. Oh, Sean did an absolutely outstanding job on that website. It's a thing of beauty. I love it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for making those resources available to folks in Australia. And with that, I think that this would be a great time to wrap up and have a few closing thoughts from our fabulous executive director. We have Gail Jordan with us this evening, who has been here in the background this whole time. You just couldn't see her, but she's been following along and has, I am certain, some words of wisdom to wrap us up with. Gail, welcome to the YouTube show.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Kara?
Yes, loud and clear.
You all can hear me? Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. I've had 3 different portals open. I've got the YouTube, and then I've got the Zoom, and now Riverside, and it's a whole fun thing. So everyone, thank you. Thank you so much for your patience as we kind of work through these techie glitches. It has gone rather smoothly in spite of everything. And I am so grateful. You can't imagine the amount of background work that Kara and their team have done to get us ready for this. So thank you again for your patience. Thank you for attending. And to our volunteers who have shared what is a pretty intimate part of your lives tonight. Thank you, not only for sharing it with our group like this, but being a part of Recovering from Religion and allowing those experiences to drive your compassion and your empathy and your commitment to our providing hope, healing, and support. We often say, those of us on the inside at Recovering from Religion, we are a hair's breadth away from our own experiences about it. And you heard tonight several folks, I think Josiah and Sherry both said, and maybe David too, when we start to hear those things, or we hear something triggering, a Bible verse, or Glenda and I were talking earlier, a pastor's voice and the rhythm that they use when they do the sermons, there's out of the blue, we can be triggered and put right back in there and have that same sensation of the fracture and of being lost and of being afraid and having this mix going on inside of us of the joy of the freedom and the terror of the unknown, and then we waffle back and forth, and oh my goodness, maybe it's really real, and am I really doing this? And it's this whole soup, and we understand that, we get that. And our volunteers who haven't come from a religious experience, they understand that too. They are a special group because they didn't experience it, and yet they are able to access their sympathy for the folks that call into the helpline and the folks that attend their support groups. So let me say a special thank you. And they way underplayed what they do at Recovering from Religion. They do so much more than what they just try to say in their 1 or 2 or 3 minutes of what they do at Recovering from Religion, as do Kara and Rob as well, and all the folks in the background. Thank you so much for attending. We have launched. We will now be doing this. Pay attention, and we will give you clues and information about where we're going to be. I know we're hopping around a little bit. I'm going to turn it back over to Kara so that they can explain how we do the hangout part after this. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you all for participating, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Gail. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you to Sherry and David and Josiah and Rob and Glinda and Daniel and Phil and everybody else that has helped us make the show happen. And thank you, everybody, for attending. We will be back again, same time, same channel, with Susan Gerbic as our guest next week. And for more information about recovering from religion and to access our other resources, don't forget you can visit our website at recoveringfromreligion.org. And you can get in touch with the helpline, a support group. You can look at our online resources, the blog, the podcast, get connected with a licensed mental health care professional. And as we mentioned, you can even apply to be a volunteer yourself or make a donation. And Rob, how else can people get connected?
Yes, so we're all over the social medias, thanks to folks, including Josiah. You can follow us on, we have a link tree, we have a Facebook account, we have Instagram, we have a TikTok account. I don't know if there's any dancing on there. We have even Blue Sky. And of course, most of the previous RfRx recordings can be found on our YouTube channel in the RfRx playlists. So yeah, we have learned here that healing can come from helping others. So as Josiah and others have mentioned, it would be really helpful if you have the time and inclination to become a volunteer for us. To apply for that, just go to our main page and click the volunteer tab.
Yeah, and another item that I forgot to mention too is someone asked earlier about Discord. Currently, this show is being streamed to the atheist community of Discord, and that is another great place to find community at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. And I think I interrupted the middle of your spiel, Rob. Sorry.
No, I was actually done, but I will mention, for people who tuned in late, that we have just started a new series, which is RfR Deconstruction Stories. This is just a coincidence, actually, that we're doing this as a one-time RfRx tonight. But I'm going to be doing
was all planned.
A lot of those interviews, and the very first one out just came out today, where I interviewed Cara and heard their entire story.
That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. I hope other people enjoy watching it. So check out our other playlists and join us back here next week. And it's time for our catchphrase, which is that wraps up this week's episode of RfRx, your weekly reminder that recovery is a journey best shared. We'll see you next time, same channel, same prescription. Night.